Here we are back at Harvest Barn on week 3, and we've got Marcus here with a drone. He's about to send a drone up to do some aerial footage so you can get an idea of what the field looks like, and we'll have a look round Stephen and Lynn's farm as well, look at the orchards and the farm shop, the farmyard. I was a bit worried how these transplants were going to be after a week without any water. I don't think it's rained all this week, but they're all looking okay, apart from a couple that were dug up by the dog this morning. but they're all looking like they've survived, so if it rains in the next couple of days, that'll be really useful.
Did you ever think that weed could be something you can eat? Let me tell you about some eating weeds I know. You can munch them all day long while you're singing this weed song, 'cause they're growing almost everywhere you go. Yeah, I've been known to succumb to nasturtium, root of dandelion drying for my teeth.
This is the first bed that I dug. Just having a look at the weeds that have come back. This was 3 weeks ago that I dug this and that the tractor went over, and you can already see these roots that were left in. That's badly weeded on my part. I'll need to go over that again with a rake. You can see how easily they come back, but at least they are easy to pull out. I'll go over that with a rake or a fork again. I'm not planting in this one, but I am going to be planting the other 9 in this block. You can see these small seedlings coming up. They're easy to get out with a hoe. They'll just break the stem. Good morning, this is day 7, it's week 3, it's a lovely sunny morning. It's a very windy day yesterday with the remnants of Hurricane Ophelia. Did a tiny bit of watering yesterday, but the plants seem okay. Didn't get much done yesterday. I was digging bed for H, and I'm going to continue with bed for I and for J. That will finish block 4. Yesterday I was mostly filming with the drone with Marcus. This morning I'm going to do a bit more digging and then go and collect some more trays of plants from Delftland. That'll be the cabbages, the pak choy, onions, and get those planted over the next couple of days. I've also got some silage sheeting from Stanford or Valley Farmers. I can't put that down until I've got the tyres to weigh it down, because otherwise it'll just blow away.
Sprinkle it with liquid. Hey, I'll even eat some seaweed if I'm living by the sea. Now, did you ever think it?
I'm just taking down this fence, which was around Stephen and Lynn's previous vegetable patch in this field. As you can see, it's got a little bit weedy. That is what I want to try and avoid this year. There's an example of what happens if you don't keep up with the weeding, and obviously all these plants which are going to seed have the potential to have already done. In some cases spread thousands of new seeds on the soil, which is then more work. So that's why you always want to try and stop weeds from going to seed, and I'm going to be putting it around the new area over there. You get an idea of how light this soil is when you're walking through it and just see how your boots sink in. It's good in some ways, it's really easy to work, but it makes it tricky for other things. Makes it a bit harder to seed. I don't know what other problems there are, but we may find out. It's certainly easy to cultivate. It's the end of day 8. It's Tuesday the 17th of October. The wind has died down a little bit. I've finished digging the 10th bed on block 4, so that's for J. So I've got 20 beds dug now after 3 weeks, and I have got these plants from Delftland, so I'm going to start planting them up maybe this evening or tomorrow. I'll just show you a couple of things. This is a new rake that I've just got from LBS, made by Chelwood Rakes. It's quite nice and light. It goes across the bed, so about 30 inches. It's got 18 tines. I do actually find the smaller rake a bit easier to use, but probably in the long run this will be better when I'm raking out the seed beds, as it will not require so much raking because it's wider. So I've just been trying to get this fence up round the edge, which I don't know if you can see. It goes to over there, down here, and I've got more, so that should go around the whole plot, mainly to stop the dogs coming in, because I think rabbits and deer are not a problem here, but we'll see. I have been talking to somebody from Agrilan about getting some enviromesh to cover the brassicas because of cabbage root beetle, but I had a bit of a nightmare with the fence. I folded it up all quite neatly, but then when I dragged it over here and tried to unfold it, it was a complete mess, so I wasted quite a lot of time untangling it. You wouldn't have thought doing something as simple as that could waste so much time. What did I learn? Take out those orange posts before doing anything with the fence, because they just get caught up. Get rid of any of the weeds that are in the mesh, because they also help to tangle it up. Don't twist it while you're trying to unravel it. Various other things which I've learnt from experience now. It's nice to be able to talk without the wind blowing. It makes it a little bit easier, so hopefully you can hear me. Yesterday was fun. We were doing some drone flying, which you'll see in this video and maybe the next video. It's great to be able to see the whole plot from above and get a bit of perspective on the farm. Stephen, the farmer here, was talking to us about how a friend of his up in Northumberland, who's a sheep farmer, uses his drone to go out and check where the sheep are, so he saves a lot of time looking for the sheep, which struck me as a pretty good way to use a drone. I know some people use them for watering crops and animals, checking on water levels, also using various different types of sensors to work out whereabouts in your fields needs application of maybe chemicals if you're not organic, or water. And it struck me as well, being a teacher and doing supply teaching, if you could have a drone that was remote controlled, maybe charging on a solar powered battery, and I could be in a classroom in Norwich, say, I could log on to some software, I could get that drone to start flying. So maybe it could be launched off a platform here, and it was just kept there when I'm not here. And I could actually use that drone with the students in the classroom in Norwich to observe what was happening on the farm, and maybe make some evaluation about what to do with the farm. Possibly some of those things could even be automated from the classroom in Norwich. Although most things like weeding and watering, that would be quite hard to do. But if you were doing some maths lessons of working out, which I've been doing a lot of, working out how many plants will fit in a certain area, how many plants you need to fill a certain area, what are the spacings between them, working out right angles on the beds, etc. You could actually do that, but at the same time you could be using a drone to view and have that on the whiteboard in the classroom, use that to view the space that you were talking about, which would make it much more realistic and relevant and fun, and possibly the kids could even have a go at steering the drone from the classroom, which that's probably not technology that's available right now at a cost-effective price, but in the future that'll be one way of making something like farming much more relevant and bringing it into the classroom. Drones are pretty amazing, and I would imagine there's lots of applications that they could be used for in the future. Just want to talk a little bit about the beds, having dug 20 of them. It's quite hard work. It started off taking me about half an hour to do one bed, but now it's taking me about an hour or a little bit more. Maybe that's because I'm taking it more slowly, trying to be a bit gentler on my body, because after the first couple of days my back was really aching, my elbows were sore, my wrists were sore. And now I'm not really feeling the aching so much. That might be just because I'm getting used to it, but maybe also taking it a bit slower. But thinking about the digging, obviously whether it's worth it or not, and doing this whole field by fork would be a lot of work. Colin has been through again with the tractor, and the best way from a conventional large-scale farmer's point of view seems to be to rake all the couch grass out and let it dry off and die on the surface, but I don't particularly want to do that, although I am happy for Colin to do it, which is helpful for me. But in the long term, my choice would be to try and do it by hand, or what I'm going to try is to put silage tarps down to cover the soil, which will hopefully kill the couch grass. But looking at the beds that I did last week and the week before, where the couch grass and other weeds are coming up, it shows me that it's really worthwhile to get the roots out to begin with. And there's really only, if you're trying to do it quickly like I am, rather than leave it over many months, then the only way to do it really is to pull them out by hand, which I'm doing, because where the roots are left in the ground, then they just regrow, and then if they regrow when you've planted some crops, you're going to have real struggle to get those roots out, and they're going to disturb the crops that you've planted, so it's not ideal. Why am I doing it in beds? You could say if I was doing it with a tractor I wouldn't need to worry about that, because I would just plough it up and then plant straight into it. Well, the reason that I've chosen to do the market garden in beds like this is because I've been following various farmers like Jean-Martin Fortier and Curtis Stone and others who use this 30-inch bed system. And it just means that you can divide your crops up into very small areas and grow very intensively. That means that they're grown very close together and quite quickly, and you can crop out one bed and then plant something else in it. And either side of it there might be a different crop which is taking a few days or a few weeks longer, and you can't really do that on a whole field scale if you're growing on a small scale like I am. Maybe if you're growing a whole field of cabbages that would be alright, but if you're growing for small markets like a shop or restaurants, then you need small quantities, relatively small quantities of crops quite often. So if I pull out one bed or half a bed of crop, I can then replant it with transplants or sow it, and then there'll be another crop in 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm not stepping on the beds because I'm walking down the paths. If I had a tractor doing that, there would be a bit more ground taken up with the tractor wheels. So by using wheelbarrows and walking, I don't need much space between the beds. So that's a system I've chosen to use, very intensive, very quick succession and quick turnover of crops. We'll see if it works. Conventional farmer might look at what I'm doing and say it's too fiddly, it's too much hard work. I have been reflecting as well on what it's like setting up this market garden with this very busy road next to me, and that's interesting because I imagine as people go by regularly they're seeing the changes and wondering what's happening. Normally if you look into a field it's either empty or there might be a tractor, and you don't see the tractor driver necessarily, so you don't have much idea of who it is that's growing your food. So I like the idea that I'm visible and that people can see the person that's growing the food, and I guess I feel a bit self-conscious and there's a bit of a lack of privacy, but I like the fact that it's on display and people can see what's growing, and hopefully next summer with all the flowers and different crops it will look really good. So there's a few reflections on what's happening here at Harvestbarn Market Garden. Thanks. So here you can see a bed that was dug 3 weeks ago, I think. This is regrowing, and that was just a small bit of root which has regrown.
And sometimes a bit difficult to do this with one hand, but you can see another root which will grow, and in some cases there will be quite big bits. Well, that's not so big, but you can see there's quite a lot growing there, which means I missed all these bits of root which are then going to regrow. So I need to go over those now and get rid of them before I start planting. In a way, it's quite good that I was able to leave it. This is what some people call a stale seed bed, where you let the weeds regrow and then kill them, get rid of them. There's a big clump of grass which would be a real pain to plant into, which I obviously missed the first time round because I was going too quickly.
Here you can see the lovely Mizuna.
That's a lovely salad green, and here I've planted them
in 5 rows to a bed, and you can see the difference. This is spinach or leaf beet herbet, 4 rows to a bed, 4 rows to a bed. This is the giant red mustard, 4 rows to a bed. Here's the 2 winter lettuces, Arctic something and winter density, 3 to a bed, 3 rows to a bed, and mustard golden streets, 3 to a bed. So we'll see how they all do. It just makes a difference in terms of yield and how you harvest them. Obviously if they're too cramped they don't grow big enough, but the advantage to having them close together is that they shade out any weeds, and also you're not wasting space, so you're growing them really intensively.
Nice to be recording without any wind, so hopefully you can hear me well. It rained quite a lot last night, which is great. Not heavily, but it did penetrate the surface. The main benefit of that, apart from for the plants, is that I don't have to worry so much when I'm not here about watering, about whether the plants will survive. I've got 14 trays of transplants to try and get out this morning, so if I don't plant them all out I need to know that they're not going to die in their little plugs before I come back. So I'm planting this Komatsuna, which is another type of oriental green, 5 rows to a bed. I do have this little stick which is 17 centimeters, but I can pretty much do it by eye. And this is the kind of thing which is quite tedious, and it's good to be able to just do it quickly and get it out of the way. I don't know what the leaves taste like actually. Very fresh, a little bit peppery, but not really. So I will have 3 different crops in this bed. The Mizuna, this Komatsuna, and then the Mibuna at the end. So it's another example of intensive growing, trying to fit as many different things, or not necessarily as many different things, but as much as possible into a small space. And I could do a whole bed of one of these, but because I don't know what's going to sell and how well they're going to grow, I'm doing smaller quantities of each one, and then we can see which ones are good, which ones sell well, and then grow more of those later.
Hi, so I'm just about to finish. You can see I've got the fence up around these 2 blocks. That is mainly for rabbits, although with the dogs and cats around, don't think there will be many rabbits. Deer could jump over that, but I don't know if they'd come so near the house with dogs, possibly. It's actually mainly for the dogs and cats to stop them running on it and digging up the soil. Just going to finish off with a little bit of hoeing. This is a wolf hoe. These are pretty cool because you can change the ends for different implements. So I'm just going to do a little bit of hoeing, although I've run out of time to do what I'd like to do, but there is some weeds and couch grass coming up as we saw, and this is the best time to hoe it really before it gets too big. So you can just see with the hoe you can take off these very small seedlings which are growing on the surface. What it's not doing is getting rid of the couch grass, although you might not be able to see it anymore, but the root of the couch grass will still be in there and it will grow back. So I'll have to go with a fork and dig those up, but it's very good for doing these small seedlings on top. There's a big one. Can't believe I left that in. So I just found a very big clump of grass back there. It's pretty bad that I left that in the soil. What this won't do is hoe in between the plants because it's too wide. So I've got another hoe for that, which I actually ordered from America from a company called Johnny's Selected Seeds, and that will go very nicely in between the plants. But we'll see the difference between what I've hoed here and what I haven't hoed down there next week. The main things I'm thinking about now are, if it all grows and doesn't get eaten and die, how I'm going to sell it and make some money. Hi, and that wraps it up for the third week here at the market garden at Harvestbarnshop. I'm just taking a little break because it's raining, which is great for the plants. I will see you next week, and please hit like and subscribe to these videos. Thank you for your support. Bye.